Yay, we're live. Welcome back, guys.
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, and welcome back to Course Scoring Chronicles. Today, I get to have the amazing Jody May with me as we talk about preparation of death from a nursing home standpoint. So, welcome to the show. How you doing, Jody?
I'm doing well. Hope everybody out there is doing well as well. How are you?
I am blessed. We survived Burl. We got hit with some tornadoes, but luckily not us again. I am grateful it wasn't us again, although my heart and prayers do go out to those who did get hit
Yes,
bad
definitely.
from Burl.
Yeah, I'm under a watch right now, so I'm just listening.
So, guys, if she drops out after the interview, it is against her wishes. So, and I hope those going through the storm, all the storms right now, stay blessed and make it through okay. But welcome to the show. I was a CNA for a while, and I enjoyed working with the lovely people who would be in my home from 19 to 106, I think the oldest resident I had. And I didn't know until I met her that you could last that long.
Well, I didn't know that either, but I did. I was also a CNA, guys. I started right when I was 18, and I CNA'd until I was 25. And my oldest resident was the one I told you about, Jenny Queen Elizabeth. That's what she liked to be called. And she was just everything to me. And she ended up being 103 when she finally passed.
That
So
is wow.
that's a beautiful long life.
Oh, yeah. So this episode, we have a interview, a pre-recorded interview with Martha Hedricks. Yes, you guys actually get to have a conversation that I get to was blessed with having with her, explaining preparing for death from a long-term care standpoint. You know you're going to pass away. And she gives us the conversation that should be had from both a parent standpoint and a nurse standpoint. And there's so much information. I made notes so we can talk about it afterwards. Technically, I made notes so we could do the interview, but it helps with the afterwards conversation between us.
Definitely.
And then we'll talk about some other things I learned while my family member has decided that he would like to move forward with the process of not getting any care to stop the ongoing illness or slow it down. And it's always an interesting conversation when you talk about that standpoint.
It's deep, yeah, but very interesting. And from my own personal experience, and you and I had similar conversation at the time concerning me. Um, it can be enlightening, to see it from the person battling really where they stand with everything.
Oh, yeah, that it is. It's very enlightening and heartbreaking at times, and sometimes it's freeing.
Yes,
Sometimes deciding to die after all that pain and suffering is free. And it doesn't always feel like it from the family member's point of view.
correct.
So, how about we start with the interview and then we'll continue our conversation? Sound okay with you?
Absolutely.
Okay. Hi, this is my mother in law, Martha. How long have you been part of the long term nursing care?
I have been a registered nurse in long term care for 30 years.
Of death from the family side and the nursing side.
Yes,
And you've learned some ways to help family members along.
I have.
Okay, from the mom side, what is the one thing you want to know about getting ready for the parents to die?
I want them to have a realistic outlook. You know, parents don't live forever. And when it's our time to go, it's our time to go. And depending on how close you are to that time, how advanced your age is, and if you don't have dementia, but you're up in years, a lot of your elderly people do not want to be resuscitated. I don't want to be resuscitated. You know, if it's my time to go, let me go, you know? And I think that parents and kids need to sit down together and they need to have a conversation and they need to have an honest conversation because if a parent has a stroke and they're left incapacitated and there's nobody to help make those decisions for them, then chances are their wishes are not going to be followed because you never told anybody what you wanted. You never put down on paper what you wanted. And then you have to make sure that the person that you grant that power to will do what you want to have done. If it means that you don't want your life prolonged by machines or whatever, that they're not going to go behind your back and do that. You need to have your plan set up. And I'm not saying, that it has to be morbid. It's just people don't want to talk about this stuff. But it's becoming more and more important for people to talk about this stuff because as a patient in a nursing home, if you didn't want this stuff done to you, then you should have spoken to your family prior to. If you didn't want a feeding tube, if you didn't want to be on life support, you should have spoken to your family, because once you're not able to make those decisions for yourself, somebody else has to. And it makes it hard for them.
When thinking about making the decision of what to do and move on, how do you normally talk to the resident about what they can do and can't do and getting their stuff ready?
Well, I'll give you an example. I just got my cousin in long-term care facility where I work. And according to his paperwork, he was a DNR. But when I got his paperwork at the facility, there was no proof of that in his paperwork. So I had to make him a full code, because until I see proof that he's done a DNR, I have to have a copy of that DNR. If I don't have a copy of it, he has to be a full code. And so I went to him. I just got back from a visit with him, and I explained to him. I called him by name and I said, "Sweetie," I said, "did you want to have CPR if anything happened to you?" And he said, "No, I already did the paper." And I said, "But nobody has a copy of that paper." And I said, "So right now, if you had a heart attack, you became unresponsive, we would have to do CPR on you." And he said, "I can't just tell you not to do it." And I said, "No, I have to have the paperwork." So I made a blank copy of the form. I pulled it off of the computer. I went and got the social worker that worked there, and we went back to his room. And she asked him if he wanted CPR or he didn't want CPR. And he said, "No, I don't." And she said, "Okay, you sign here and you sign here." And there were two witnesses, and they signed in two places. She's taking it to the doctor for them to sign it, and I will get a copy of it tomorrow to put in his file for his brother to hold on to. And we will have a copy at the facility so that I can then officially make him a do not resuscitate. So going forward, if something happens to him, we won't do CPR on him.
Okay. First, let's define some uh, terminology that we're using.
Okay.
What happens in a mental state when it says you have a DNR? How do they proceed, and what is the difference between the directive to physicians and a DNR?
A directive to physicians is a little bit more descriptive. It says yes or no, I'm feeding tube, but I don't have CPR. It gives you a little more step by step of what you do and what you don't want. And there have been some physicians that went against the directive to physicians just because, well, it's not typically a DNR. Okay, so I get the state form. Here in Texas out of hospital DNR, do not resuscitate. Now, what I tell my patients' families and my patients is that a DNR does not mean I'm not going to help you if you're having trouble breathing. A DNR only states that if I walk in that room and you are already deceased, I'm not going to do CPR on you and bring you back. But if I go in that room and you're having breathing, I'm going to do whatever I need to help you to alleviate that problem. If it means putting you on oxygen, if it means calling the ambulance, seeing maybe they've got, there's a That's all ER says. If I walk in and they are already gone, I'm not bringing them back.
So basically, if they're having an asthma attack or an allergic reaction to something, you're going to make sure
You're going
they
to help
get
them.
the care. But if they are dead, you cannot find a pulse. You are going to mark down the time, put it in the paperwork, and let the family know and proceed with the
I
other
will call the
directions.
physician, let the physician know, and then at that point, I'll call the family and let the family know.
Okay. When the will, when is the best time to make sure you have all this done? When you are fully healthy, or or you're starting to realize something may happen in the future?
Um, Different people do it different ways. I think that as soon as you have grown children, I think as soon as your children start to leave home or have left home, I think that's a good time to start thinking about it, because at that point, anything can happen to you. At any point in your life, something can happen to you. But it's always better to put something down on paper. Okay, this is what I want done with this. This is what I want done with this, and be descriptive in who you want to have what. Because you do not want to leave things undone and your family fighting over stuff that aren't worth fighting over after you're gone.
I agree with that. um so uh Also, there are things to help, like life insurance.
Hmm.
What uh what in your experience has been the your experience with the life insurance?
Okay, there are two types of life insurance. You have term life and you have whole life.
Yeah.
Whole life, you have it for the rest of your life. Term life, if you outlive the policy, then it's no longer good.
Okay.
You know, uh, and then chances are you're too old at that point to purchase another policy.
Yeah. You
You
put all
know,
that money in and it's useless.
right? And they've got the money and you don't. And so that is my understanding with the differences between those policies. Now, if it's any different than that, I don't know.
Okay. What is a medical power of attorney, and what is it used for in the long term care uh,
Okay,
situation?
you have a financial power of attorney and you have a medical power of attorney. One dictates that person is able to handle your medical care, your medical directives, should you need to have something done. The financial, of course, speaks for itself. That one would handle the financial part. That being said, I have had family member come to me and say, "Well, I have medical power of attorney. I'll just move mom here." You can't do that. He's just my stepdad. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, as long as she is still conscious and able to talk to us, you don't have anything, because your power of attorney does not kick in until the person you have it on is unable to make decisions for themselves. That means even if they've got dementia and they say, "I don't want that person doing that," legally, if they are in a long term care facility, we have to change that. We have to allow that resident who's got dementia, which more times than not, they're not going to understand to do that. But we're having an issue with this one daughter. It's her stepdad and her mother, and she has medical power of attorney over both of them. But she thinks that when he makes a decision that she doesn't like, that she can just go and do what she wants because she has power of attorney. But I had to explain to her it doesn't work that way. At this point, you have no say in it. If push comes to shove and she becomes unable to make decisions for herself related to her care, he's the next in line. He's her husband. So her medical power of attorney doesn't kick in until both of them are unable to make decisions.
Okay. I think one of the next things we should talk about is the long-term care facility. We know you can go in for short periods of time for rehabilitation and long periods of time of up until you have passed away. Can you explain more about that?
Okay, we have long term and short term residents. The short term residents are examples someone comes in with a hip fracture, does therapy, recovers, and goes home. The long term are somebody with dementia and is starting to wander and winds up on our secure unit so that they can wander safely in that secure area, or has dementia and the family is no longer able to take care of them at home, so they wind up in the long term care facility. We've had people that have advanced cancer that are in our facility. We've had people who are on hospice that are also on hospice in our facility. So hospice comes to see them, and it's almost like an extra pair of eyes. They get the advantage because a lot of your doctors don't want to deal with pain management nowadays. They'll do maybe the tramadol or the narco or something like that. But if you're having pain from cancer, they don't want to deal with that. And so you go hospice, and hospice is able to deal with your pain management and keep you comfortable, and you're in the long-term care facility.
What is the youngest long-term care resident that you've had?
Um, I had one that was 19 years old. She sustained some kind of brain damage when she was 3 or 4 years old and wound up in long term care. And that was years and years ago. And she lived out her life in long term care because her parents both became deceased and she didn't have any siblings.
Okay. What is the oldest?
To date, the oldest was 107 years old.
That is amazing.
We have one that's 104 right now where I work. She'll be 105 the end of July.
That is an interesting life.
And she still wheels around. Now she is almost blind, but and she still gets up and tries to walk. She's still continent of bowel and bladder. We
Hmm.
still toilet her. She doesn't have incontinent episodes, and that is very, very, very unusual at that advanced stage.
Okay. So, um, as a nurse, what is the one message you want people to understand as they're preparing for end of life?
I want the families to think about the person, say it's a parent, think about them. You know, at the end of the day, you have a parent that is actively passing. And I have people that, oh, I don't want to see my mama that way, or I don't want to see my daddy that way. I want to remember him this way. If it was you actively passing, your parent would be sitting next to your bed. I get frustrated when it's not the same way for the parent. You know, you've got family that they don't come to see them, but maybe once, twice a year. Oh, well, they won't remember me. I don't care. I don't care. We just had a 97-year-old lady who her son is in the same facility, and family would come visit him right and left and never stop off at her room and see her. Their excuse being, oh, she won't remember us. She won't remember us. She won't even know who we are. Okay. Her granddaughter from out of state came to see her after lunch, sat with her for an hour and a half, and said, Nanny, I'm going to be back to see you. If you need anything, this is my number. I'm going to give it to the nurse. She left. We got her in bed, got her set up because she was going to have a nap before supper, got her laid down, went back to get her up, and she had passed away, but she was laying in a position like she had just turned on her side and went to sleep. And it was like she went to sleep and didn't wake up. We weren't expecting her to die. We really weren't. She had been doing good, you know, but that's how it is. And the thing about it is when we look back, we sit there and we think, sometimes they're just waiting for somebody, and that must have been who she was waiting for. She was okay and ready to go at that point. But in long term care, we have, you know, we have the three resident theory, and the residents go in threes. You have one that you're expecting, one that could go either way, and then one that's a total surprise. And it always goes those three. And she was our surprise. We weren't expecting her to go. She wasn't even sick. She was 97, but we've seen people get older.
What is the most surprising death that you've seen in a nursing home?
Um, I guess this is the strangest one. I was director of nurses at a facility in Huntsville, and I had a resident's brother call me, and he says, did y'all have somebody die today after breakfast by the front door? And I said, no. And he said, well, I was talking to my brother, and he said that guy walked up to the front door, put his hands on the front door like he was going to go out, and just fell down and died. The next morning, Ackfoot, that walked to the door, put his hands on that door, had a massive heart attack and died. That was wicked.
That was wow.
I'd never seen that before, but he described it to his brother the day before it happened to him.
Okay. As a CNA and as a daughter and whatever, I have seen death a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that I've come more than anything is curious. Because as a kid, it was morbid. Nobody really wanted to talk about it. And I never understood why any of the grown-ups couldn't just explain any of the simplest concepts. Like, it's okay that they died.
Yeah.
It's like, what if we can't cry? What if we're too stunned at the funeral to cry?
That's okay.
And my mom kept telling me, it's okay. And I'm like, but I don't understand. She was just talking to me.
Right.
Why are we putting her in the ground when we were talking to her earlier?
Mm-hmm.
So those concepts have always interested me in understanding what happens as a human for the rest of the steps that need to happen after you've passed away.
Right.
But also there was a point where one family member said, "I want to be buried this way." But regardless of what was in the paperwork, the other family member that was put in charge of that family member's death had decided, "That's against my religion. We can't cremate you. We're going to put you in a grave." That is one of the things that I've been scared of happening as a wife and a daughter-in-law and everything. I'm going to be there, and the one thing I want to know is, what do you want when you die? How did you choose what you wanted done with your body?
That is that is why it's very important for a parent to be positively sure of whoever they choose. Like with me, yes, I have three sons, but I know without a doubt that my youngest son is going to do what I want. That's why I have made him my power of attorney. I've made him my power over financial. I've made him, you know, in charge because he's going to do it. At the end of the day, they say what they want, and all three of my boys know what I want. They know what I want, and two of them, my youngest and my oldest, are on the same page. My middle one, he is just in his own world. So I know without a doubt that this is going to get done because of who I put in charge. You have to be comfortable with who you're putting in charge. That's just like at the end of the day, I can talk to you all day about what you need to have done here in Texas, but not everybody's in Texas. So they need to look up and research what their state requires or what their state recommends that they have. I have uh, DNR and an out of hospital DNR, but which is a little bit of overkill, and directive to physicians. So all three of them are just kind of almost the same thing except a little more in depth. But the DNR technically will not cover me if an ambulance comes to pick me up and I die en route to the hospital. An out of hospital DNR will cover me in that transport. If I die in the ambulance, they won't bring me back. So that's why I kind of went with the overkill of having the directive to physicians, the DNR, and the out of hospital DNR. So I'm covered because, like, now I go to get back injections and they tell you straight up, if you die in the course of them doing the back injections, they will do whatever they have to do to resuscitate you till you get to the hospital, and then they can let you die there. Even though your wishes are not to do any of that. It's because it's a separate, they're like a separate facility. They're not acute care, they're not long term care. They are basically like a day surgery type thing. And so they've got a whole different set of things.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes it kind of hard. It's like, well, I don't know if I want to have any more back injections because if I kick off, I don't want them trying to bring me back, because who knows
Mm-hmm.
what kind of shape I would come back from,
Yeah,
what kind of damage would be to my brain. I just don't want to, I don't want to take chances with that.
that's understandable.
So I don't know. I recommend that families talk to families. If you have aging parents, sit down and say, look, I know you're doing good right now. I'm good with that. I'm not trying to rush you anywhere. But should something happen, I want to know what you want done because I want to do what you want to have done. You know, that conversation needs to go, because as hard as it is to be the one that's left behind, the child or the spouse or whatever, it's it never gets easier. It doesn't.
No.
But it happens, and you need to prepare.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anything else you want to know?
I think that covered all the questions,
Okay.
and then I can build on it from there.
Okay.
Thank you very much for having this interview with me.
Not a problem. Bye.
Hello.
And
That
brought up a lot.
I think the
It brought
biggest
up a lot.
thing, yeah, it's especially since our lives have changed so much. It's the last time we thought about this. It gives you a new way to think about it. Because,
Mm.
like, I have children now, and my sister gave me a Memento Mori journal, and now I'm thinking, it's the perfect book. It's a journal about death. Why not just go ahead and start compiling my thoughts about what I want and my husband and go from there?
Well, see,
So,
I was always a firm believer. I grew up with very poor health. Health has always been a battle for me. And the big game changer for me implementing was I really started thinking about it. I want to say when gratefully Emily being a successful pregnancy, one of my two actual living children, that's when I really started like honing on, maybe I should already be thinking of a plan. Most young people, it's not a thought, but I think a lot of times when we are becoming or have become parents, it is a forethought. But then again, I mean, for me, it became a no-brainer when I was given all the options and the explanation. You know what I mean? When I sat down with someone, it was a no-brainer. Let's do this. And I had an aftercare plan for them just in case, something happened to me. But not everybody thinks that way, because a lot of times, especially now, we live in the now, if that makes sense. Like, we're not like,
mhm,
oh, well, I'm only this age. But like Martha said, it can be any age. And I do believe I didn't want my kids put in a position at the time to have to make any hard decisions, because I was that kid that had to do that. It's not easy as the child. And another thing, I believe human nature, and don't get me wrong, I'm not calling anybody selfish, but a natural human nature, and I know this from watching the families when, I was a CNA and, LPN, is naturally you love your parents or your great, whoever it is, you love them. And like, subconsciously we are selfish because we don't want to lose our loved ones. So it's very difficult to be left with a hard decision, such as pulling a plug, turning off the machines, letting them have peace. And I think it's very important, like, to find a trusted care provider and just talk about, like, if this were to happen, or whatever it is. just be like, can you point me in the right direction? Like, what forms do I need? And Martha was right too. Every state is different when it comes to an advance directive. Some call it living will, DNR. Sometimes you have to have 3 different ones because it depends. Facility, like me at home, like all that. It's a lot.
Oh yeah. To continue the cousin saga, because that was pre-recorded about 2 weeks ago, an interview, and a lot of stuff has happened. He has went from being in the hospital into her nursing home, and he has made a crucial decision after all the conversations that were had about his health and moving forward. He's decided not to get the surgery that would stop the issue. He's decided to just move on and continue the end of life procedure as his body decides to do it. And that brings us into when he gets to the point there's home health and hospice. And home health is a nurse or a CNA or however many care professionals, because sometimes home health is a care professional that comes and helps you do in-home rehabilitation or helps with a feeding tube or whatever.
Or bathing.
And then they can help you prolong your life and get the care you need from your home. But in this situation, you would need a home health nurse with the hospice care, which you can have in the facility, at the nursing home, or you can have at home.
Right.
And they would help him stay comfortable as they can, and we would work while they're gone with him. They would help us understand how to give the care when they're not there, because they can't stay 24/7, but they can come and give us a reprieve. Sometimes they come, give us a reprieve, and they stay for X amount of time, and the person can go get a shower or groceries or a nap, and that nurse will be there for X amount of hours.
Yeah, that's more like the nanny care side of it, so that the family can have a break, and if they want to go have a meal or, what have you, where they get a break, basically.
Oh, yeah. And in this situation, they will help him get the care of medicine that will make him more comfortable, pain medicine, anti-anxiety medicine, or whatever else may be needed.
Yes.
And that way he can have a more peaceful death than without some of the medications, because dying without the medications or any help for comfort in the end is hard.
Yes.
And sometimes with the medication, the morphine and the anti-anxiety and everything, it is still hard. And
I
you
can
have the
give
two
you an example in a moment.
Yes, please.
Okay, it's very personal to me, so if I get a little teary-eyed, my grandfather was my best friend. He had end-stage emphysema, and to me, he was young. He was 63. To me, that's still semi-young. And I remember I was 8.5 months pregnant with Emily when he really took the downward spiral where the shift was so obvious that even the doctor said, it's probably a matter of time. Granddad didn't want to stay in the hospital. He wanted to come home. We respected that. We brought him home. And of course, they didn't have a DNR or anything. And he was basically suffocating while fully alert. It was horrible. I got my grandmother Of course, they had been married since they were in their teens, because back in the early 40s, it was easier to do that. They were their life partner, and my grandma's like, "Oh, we got to call 911. We got to call 911." And I'm like, "We need to call them and tell them to go ahead and send hospice over, because we did have it in place. We just didn't need it yet." No, they've got to save him. Claire, you stay with me. So we went to the hospital, and it was hard because we were waiting for hospice to show up, and they were giving him baby doses of said pain reliever, as you were suggesting, to keep him comfortable. But ultimately, he wasn't getting comfortable, because he was having his airways, it was such a thing, and it was such a thing as family to watch, and finally, like, I spoke up, like, because my grandma was just like, I don't know, she got to a point, I think she was in shock seeing him that way. And because I worked as a CNA, I've witnessed it before, but because it was my granddad, it was obviously more personal, you know what I mean? And it was hard. And I'm like, you know what? Stop with the baby doses. Help him. Make him comfortable. And I went home because I was having some blood pressure issues from the stress. And, since I was so late in my pregnancy, the doctor, like, literally, I was there when they gave him all the medicine. I was able to kiss him, say my goodbyes just in case. I wasn't even home an hour and a half, and my grandmother called, and she said, "Jody, you did the right thing. He's gone now." But it is a hard decision when you're close to someone like that. Like, it's truly, you're like, you want to do the right thing, but then you want to keep them. You know what I mean? And I'm just, I didn't want to overstep my grandmother, but I couldn't watch him like that either.
I think the biggest problem I've seen in my dad's side of the family, some of our family members are part of the holiness religion, and a lot of the holiness religion in that region does not believe in hospital care. They do not believe in medicine or whatever.
Correct.
And for my aunt, she had watched her dad die. She had been the one to give him the morphine up until his last breath. The person who did all the care and made sure he got everything he needed. So when it was time for her father-in-law to die, our other grandfather, she told them he needs to be comfortable. He needs to get the care he needs now.
Right.
And he had gotten the care, he had gotten comfortable, and he'd finally been able to pass away. But some of my family members had saw that the reason he passed away the way he did was because he did get the medicine. He did get medical care. So therefore, God was mad and took him away. When in all actuality, this is one of those point of view things where not everyone understands what medical care can give and what medical care can do to help with the comfortableness in the situation.
Correct. Because it can be very, I explained it and helped a nurse explain it in the facility I worked at. I mean, I did my whole nursing career there until I decided to switch careers. And I helped her because she was newer with the family, because they were just kind of that situation where, well, if you do all this, she's you're killing her. No, can I talk with you? Like, I want to help you with this, we're just making her comfortable. It's only enough to keep them comfortable, because when you're in pain, you're in fight mode. you're not relaxing. You can't just let your body free itself, and I've watched and seen where even like in the ER where somebody's like really struggling to stay alive, and the family just doesn't want what's being suggested done out of fear a lot. And you can blame God, you can blame any other deity, you can blame the nurses, but no, we just kept them comfortable so they weren't suffering. Period.
Oh yeah.
And when their body's ready to go, and I believe mind, body, spirit just says, okay, I'm at peace, I'm done. They're just going into their own deep sleep and saying, that's it.
In the situation we are now with our cousin, we have 3 medical professionals.
Yes.
And in this situation, they're all generally close and talking with the main person in charge of him or family member, like one of the nurses, her husband, our uncle, his cousin is talking with his wife, talking with his sister,
Right.
talking with his well, I'm not sure if they're cousins or aunt, or I don't understand. I know they're a close family member. It's one of
Right.
those, I can't remember.
Some
I know they're a
relation.
nurse and they're an important family member. So they're talking about this. They're talking through it. And I don't want you to think I'm saying autistic people are stupid. It has all been laid out for his understanding.
Right.
And you've got to sometimes put it differently. Remember, with our family, we have a whole lot of autistic family members.
Yes.
And I need you to understand, sometimes as a family member, you have to explain it a different way. Like, this anxiety medication is basically antibiotics for your brain and stuff like that, to help them understand what it actually does. It helps fight this part so you can have the clearer part. That way you can be calmer in the situation and think clearer. Things like that. Explaining what the medication can do in alternate ways. I need
breaking it down to basics. I think having an autistic child myself, like you said, our family, it is what it is. And I love my kids dearly. You have to simplify it a lot sometimes because they don't see black and white, and you've got to kind of force them to see, okay, this over here or this. And those right now, if you don't do, like the antibiotics or what have you, it's going to be this. Do you want this? And it does. How am I trying to word that? Like, you can break it down. You can give examples. You can show, like, there's pictures. Like, you can really, but ultimately, even if they make a decision we don't agree with concerning their care, if they're deemed capable of doing so, as sad as it is, I can respect it, but it's still hurtful, I guess.
Yeah.
That they made that decision.
That is one of the 2 things I wanted to bring up. A, make sure you've explained it, and whether they're new to the situation, new to the medicine, or they're neurodivergent and they think differently. First, figure out how to break it down where they understand without speaking down to them. Because they're not. They just don't understand, because this is a new concept. And that was a new concept, and we all know the older generation had made it sound taboo to get any of the help. Whereas Martha, as a nurse, has spent a whole lot of her career learning about these medicines and trying to give it the best spin she can for anybody of any divergency.
Yes.
And the number 2 thing, like you said, he has made decisions that we're not happy with and we don't like them, But at the end of the day, it's still his decision to decide, I don't want to do this.
Right.
In my mother's situation, she died when she's 32.
Yeah.
She was a spread. Nobody knew her lungs were going to shut down that day. And she was just gone. Our grandfather, we knew he was going to pass away. We had time to prepare.
Yeah.
And
that's the difference when you have time to prepare and when you don't. And I think that, like she said in the video, they weren't expecting the heart attack, but there you were, massive heart attack. There are certain things that are sudden that you're not prepared for. And I think with me, when that happened with the cousin years ago, he was an athlete. Nobody expected it. You know what I'm saying? And then for whatever reason, his heart just quit. And I was young enough that it baffled me. But he's young, because I had the belief system, young people don't die. That's because I was at the time the baby, I was the unexpected kid. And so everybody was older, and even though it wasn't easy, the older people were starting to pass away in the family. But then you get somebody that's like 17, 18, and all of a sudden, just boom, it made no sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah. My little sister's best friend died in a car crash. A drunk driver hit them, and that poor little girl did not make it. And they were in like first grade. And it's hard to understand at any age. Because now that I look back, I knew that there were signs that it could happen early when it comes to my mom. Because we had been going multiple times. We went to the special breathing asthma care place that they have at Erlanger. I can't remember what the clinic is called or if they've changed name. I haven't been in Chattanooga in forever. But they had been starting the clinic and getting it up and going. So there were signs, but there weren't big enough signs for any of us to think it was going to happen then.
Yeah. Well, and I think other hard death is where, like she was explaining in the video, like they seemed fine. They went to bed. Just didn't wake up.
Oh, yeah.
And I've dealt with a couple of those, and it didn't make sense at the time because it didn't make sense. And these were extended relatives, not immediate family. But, the aunts and uncles decided to have an autopsy performed because they needed it to make sense, because it was a great aunt and one of them was a great uncle. Okay, we need to make it make sense. Okay, I get it, because, nothing seemed wrong. And, there's always a thing, too, where underlying conditions and you don't even know they exist because there's no symptoms to make you go look into it.
No, sometimes that symptom is for something totally different. So they looked at that. And it never occurred to them that these two symptoms that are big in this also means this over here.
Right.
Like my dad, he'd had brain surgery a couple of times and the cancer wasn't going away. And he had a seizure and he died in his sleep.
Correct.
So it's a matter of, I think the biggest thing, takeaway from this episode I'm hoping you all have is think about it. Research it. On the next episode, we're going to talk about how you want your body to be taken care of after you've passed away. But in this episode, we want you to prepare for the idea. You will die. Sometimes you will be ready for it. Sometimes you won't. And your family members need to know.
I just thought of something too, and if you plan
Yeah.
on whatever they call it in your state, it doesn't matter if it's an advance directive, living will, they all go by different names. Just get with your local hospital, they'll tell you. I think it's really important. Even if you could be in the perfect health right now, just to have a plan though, someone you 100% trust, that if you cannot speak for yourself, such as coma, life support, like you can't, but they will honor you in what you truly want. It's not bad to start the process, even if you're not ready to turn it in, or you can pick up a blank and just hang on to it till you're ready. But I think it's so important, because I can't reiterate enough that in a blink, any of us, you just never know. And I'm a firm believer that it's your time when it's your time. And I don't think preparation is wrong. A lot of people view it morbid. I don't. I think it's being cautious and protective of the ones you love, so they don't have to make the hardest decisions. You've already made them.
Okay. We have reached our usual time for the show, and I think we've covered all the important things very well with our own experiences and talking about moving forward. Jody, where would you like everyone to find you?
So if you'd like to check me out, I like to call it Tiki Talkie. You can find me there under Rebel Angel 66. I run a small business on Facebook under Nail the Rainbow with Jody. You can hit me up on my regular page. It's Jody May, like the month, not middle name. It's just Jody May. And hit me up on Insta. I'm on there once in a blue moon, which is also Rebel Angel. And once I get my YouTube going again, you can hit me up on Jody's Odyssey Corner. We talk about everything and anything, just like here.
That's awesome. And she does have fun videos. We have duetted a few times.
Oh, yeah. It's
You can find me anywhere where there's Owlet Network, anywhere where's there Facebook. On Friday with the Library in the Blue Box, you can find me at you can find me at my author page, Jennifer Elliott, and we have a anthology out that all the proceeds for a year are going to pro literacy. Every adult has the right to literacy. It helps people learn how to read and find success. Our book is the Owlite Menagerie anthology. We have stories from Curtis M. Lawson, Rob Smales, Raz T Slasher, Carrie Lee Sanders, James Case Jr. He has a middle name. I cannot remember it. Please forgive me, James. And my story. So many amazing people. And don't forget to check out More Lore from the Mythos Kickstarter coming soon. It is going to have a beautiful, there it is. It's going to be beautifully bound and have stories from amazing people. I've enjoyed all of the ones that I've read.
I love that.
Oh, yeah. So, I hope you all have a good night, and we shall talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.